Hey, everybody, good evening, and how are you? Welcome to the Deployed from Detroit School of Leadership and Madness. I'm Steve, and with me is Paul. Say hi, Paul.
Hey, how's it going?
Say hi, Iggy. Iggy's with us, too.
Hello, Governor.
Hmm, alright. We'll work on that. So, tonight we're gonna do things a little differently, but kind of the same. Things are going to be divided into separate segments just to make it easier for people to watch and easier for us to edit later. Um, but we're still going to try and kind of just nail the topic home until we think we're done with it. This evening, we're going to be talking about sleep because out of, I don't know, however many million Americans there are, about 50 to 70 million of them just can't fucking sleep whatsoever, or they have some kind of sleep disorder. And it's extremely common amongst veterans. And if you have PTSD, you just plain have one. Like, it's part of PTSD is having one of these numerous sleep disorders that are out there. So, we're going to talk a little bit about that. But first, let's catch up with our hombre Paul and see how he's been doing. Buddy?
Uh, so, uh, the experience of going to rehab didn't quite expected it to go. I guess that night when it was all transpiring, we had someone come over. Wanted to go to rehab. I was going to check myself in, have my roommate check me in the next day. Didn't quite work out like that because they ended up just, and they took me to the ER to get put into chemical detox, which for those of you who don't, it is a enlightening experience. If I was going to use a software, yeah. So essentially, like they treat you if you say like you have a drug problem, and they automatically treat you like you are addicted 100%. You're going to die cold turkey. So heavily medicated. You're put into a room, a bed, and they do some tests and they run everything. But all in all, I was I went through the detox process, which they didn't let me have anything in there. It was a complete shithole. The only thing I had for like shitty cafeteria food and apple juice.
Mm.
But at least from my experience, I hate being locked up, and I hate not being able to get what like if I have soda or I want to eat some other food. Like everything was kind of taken away from me. My cell phone was taken away. I make it from the nurse's station. It was like complete like all privacy was gone. It was just a bad day altogether. It was enough to the point I was the only one who was there for alcohol ever for brain trauma or heroin. I guess that's all fun. But when I got to my 3 day mark, they said I could go because I did a good job in there, and they had split me away from nicotine and alcohol all in one time. Plus, they threw in medication, like a shit ton of medication.
Mm.
And to be honest with you, the whole thing was kind of like a traumatizing thing. I wanted to get the hell out of there.
Yeah, it's very, like, I used the word infantilizing a lot. Like, it made me feel like a little kid.
Yes.
And then your decision making becomes very childish too in certain ways.
Well, they treat you like a child.
Mm.
Obviously you're there with a problem, but you're not viewed as like a person anymore. You're viewed up, and they're just there to follow protocol. Because I kept telling them I didn't want to be medicated. Medicated leave. Medicated leave. So I did their little thing, and they had me fucked up for like 3 days, like fucked up on meds. I was fucked up for a couple days after I got out of the hospital. But, to wrap everything up, I have returned to work. I took a few days off. I am on some medication now. Tomorrow week mark, I have not had a drink in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
As of tomorrow. I don't have a desire to drink. I was diagnosed alcohol abuser, not an alcoholic. So anyone out there, and I mean, it started really bad. Fucked up from the experience, but everything has been going a lot better since then. I'm a lot more focused where it needs to be. I'm actually doing, the things that I should be doing that I wanted to do when I was drunk or passing out to do them. But one thing I did notice is people have been asking questions, what's it like? So what should I do? And, how hard is it to like get off alcohol? And I did get enrolled in which has been amazing, by the way.
You cut out for a sec there. You said AA?
What's that?
Which one did you say there? You cut out for a sec. You just cut out again.
Oh, it's the outpatient level 1.
Roger that. Outpatient level 1.
That's essentially like I have to go to class 3 nights a week. And I have to see a counselor another day. It's basically group therapy, the whole time, but they teach you stuff while you're in it. So one of the things we're going to cover tonight is sleep. But they also talked about the medication aspect and like addiction and like the science behind it. And it's all good. And I'm understanding. So I guess moving forward, it's helping me to help other people who are kind of in the same spot and they have questions about it. I'm just gaining knowledge right now. I'm not really struggling with staying. I'm just kind of, gaining knowledge and trying to get the most out of this experience as I can. But and there's a lot more that goes into the story. We'll get into some of the details when I can talk about them.
Right.
But for now, I think the biggest thing is that I'm back and not drinking. Definitely seem different on the show. That's because I'm sober.
You'll be nodding off as much, and that'll help. Yeah, in the VA, they have a similar program. It's usually called SUD IOP, or I've seen it called that often, like substance abuse intensive outpatient or something like that. But it's usually like after you do an inpatient bit, you do an outpatient bit for X number of weeks or so. And some of it is, you're like, all right, why are they teaching us to brush our teeth? And it's like, well, because pay attention. Some of the guys in the class need that lesson. But then it does get into the other stuff of like why the dumb meat you drive around gets the way it gets when you put whatever that is in your system or near it, or, you learn the systems of it and you understand what's trying to be tricked, and it helps you trick the system back in a lot of ways, I think.
I know one thing I learned that was pretty amazing is so dopamine basically drives everything.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's the driving force of like your brain and the things that your brain does and stuff like that. And dopamine that you have in your system kind of determines how your day is going to go. So anywhere from, the worst day where you can't to 40 is about your normal day, and then if everything great in the world happens, it's about 100. You're not supposed to go person's level, so that's the way that we were made to be.
Yeah.
Every drug, alcohol, weed, cocaine, meth, heroin, they all do essentially the same thing. Mass produces dopamine in your brain, and
it's also the same thing too as if you, it's not just the drugs that produce dopamine, and it's not necessarily the drug itself. Like sometimes the drug itself may produce it, But more often than what's not is it precipitates a release of dopamine. And then that dopamine, not only does it comes out anytime you have any behavior that you want reinforced. It's a natural thing that makes you, so you taste this apple and it tastes good, and then your body produces dopamine. So like next time you run into an apple, bite another one because that was kind of awesome. Boom. And it's a way for us to store memories of like, okay, this was a positive experience and this was a negative experience. A lot of these drugs though have that like dopamine you get from an apple. This is good, but screaming in a freight train into your face, and then your poor body can't fucking recover. And in some cases, the well dries out. Like for me, I have little to none, and then so not only does that make me more depressed than I ought to be at times, but it also causes it. Dopamine is required for you to make a thought into an action. And so it's not just behind motivation, it's the thing there. So oftentimes I'm paralyzed on the couch or just anywhere, like in bed a lot of times, or a lot of times though I'm just stuck throughout the day and I can't move. And it's not because there's anything wrong with my body, it's just that I don't have the spark between thinking the thought and doing the thing. And so I could be sitting there having to piss for 4 hours and I will not stand up. And it takes forever until I can finally squeeze enough dopamine together to get myself to actually do the thing I'm trying to do. And then I can, and it's a fucking mess.
Right.
It's,
That's why people go up into higher drugs because, believe it or not, I didn't know this, but what the drug does is it blocks the dopamine from getting out of your system. So like meth is the craziest one. I did not get your levels up to 1100. That's 11 times your normal amount, right? Which is why it feels you're superhuman.
yeah.
Because you do so much shit on meth when you start. But like, let's just say you start on alcohol. Maybe it can get you up to like 150. And then you go from alcohol to, let's just say like weed. And then weed to cocaine to like meth. You know what I mean? And then every one is a step up because as you continue to use that drug, it produces less and less and less, but it's also deteriorating your body from being able to make its own.
Mm.
So you almost can't get to a point where you can create your own a drug to do it for you, which is why we get stuck in the spiral. And then part of the recovery of what I'm doing right now, gabapentin, which gabapentin is specifically for alcohol because that's the part alcohol gets to is your of your brain. So when it's being attacked as much as it is, you have to repair that, and then I take another medication to help out with my body producing its own dopamine again up to it should be. So now that I understand this shit, it feels a lot better being medicated, but I won't always be on it. Getting off of it and like it's like night and day. Like the amount of what I was doing a mere month ago is like astronomical. I actually have the energy. I'm in fuck, gents. I forgot how to fall asleep because I was drinking until I fell asleep every night.
Yeah.
So I stayed up for 48 hours after I got out of the hospital because I was like, how the fuck do I fall asleep? like not know the process of falling asleep anymore because it had relied so much on a drug to do. I just couldn't do it anymore, and I just stayed awake for 48 hours straight until I could figure it out. And now, I mean, I sleep about 2.5 more hours a night than what I did when I was drinking. Energy levels are up. You know, I'm not saying like, I'm not saying like medicinal marijuana is bad or drinking portions are bad, but when you're like nuking your body constantly,
Right.
there's got to be something to even it out.
Yeah, and a lot of it is just healthy, natural, legit sleep. Because even, you know, all of us potheads love to say that there's nothing marijuana does to your body that's bad for you, but they do know it for sure interferes with REM sleep. They haven't gone and had enough funding and study to figure out to what degree, if it cancels it out, if it interrupts it, if it prevents it, if it does this, that, or the other. But uh, so yeah, there's definitely some actions there prior to bed, but it does help people fall asleep and they do feel more rested. They just have less dreams. So it's a trade-off, I guess. But if you're a nightmare person too, that's also kind of why it's likely why people think it helps with nightmares or say it helps with nightmares. But again, like anything that pops up, and we'll kind of run through that. I mean, we might as well start jumping into it while we're at it because this a sleep disorder, and they're technically called sleep-wake disorders, is any kind of you either not falling asleep when it's ideal or not staying asleep when it's ideal or not waking up when it's ideal. To whom it's ideal needs to be you at all times. And we'll kind of get into that further about like, yeah, if the job starts at 8 in the morning, but you're a night owl, fuck it. You're not working that job. Like, you really need to start making those kinds of decisions. Because, like we said, 50, 70 million people have this problem. 20% of veterans have this problem. About 20% of anybody who's been in any kind of trauma is going to have some kind of
Yep.
lasting sleep disorder. And even, this is a weird number that I like just to kind of point out on its own. 20% of people are also night owls. It means they stay up super late. I do that. And they wake up super late. I do that. 20% of people are early birds. They wake up super early. They go to bed kind of early. And then 60% are regular 9 to 5ers. It's just a legit bell curve. That's all it is. It's
Right.
it's an even distribution throughout the entire population. At the tail end, 20% of us like to stay up late, 20% of us like to stay up early. And that's something you should kind of understand about yourself because your sleep rhythm kind of depends a lot on that. If you've always been just fucking deathly in the morning, stop getting up that early. You really need to stop getting up that early because it's just not good for you. Like, you can train yourself out of it. And like, I was in the military and we get up at dark fucking 30 all the time. But after 8 years, I was just worn out from not sleeping. And then I finally got full blown insomnia and didn't sleep for like 21 days in a row without like, I had like an hour nap here or like a half hour. I'd kind of doze off, but it was nuts for a long stretch. Like, I just
Mhm.
blew that chunk of my head out.
Iggs, do you have
What's up?
problems as well?
Yeah, I got sleep apnea. I guess it's really common with people that have PTSD. So I have the machine, which helped out a ton because my wife was all worried. She's like, you got to get checked out, because you stopped breathing.
Mhm.
So, uh, but people try, like I was telling Steve earlier, there's 3 different masks that you can get. And don't try one mask and think that's it. If it doesn't work for you, get another kind because you feel so much better. And like mine has, um, what is it? Resmed something. Anyway, there's an app for it and everything. And like if you're having problems, your primary care physician can remotely change your settings on your machine.
Oh,
Oh
no
shit.
shit.
Yeah, and you can do it too. Um, but they have the pillows which are just like 2 little balloons underneath your nose for when you sleep, and I didn't like those, so I got the one that covers my nose. But then there's one like if you're a mouth breather, you got to get the whole face one. So
Hmm.
um, what do they
That's
call it,
me.
gulping or oxygen gulping or something. Anyway,
Right.
um, but it's made a big difference. And you know what? Just recently, I cut out all caffeine, and that's made an even bigger impact.
Yep. Yep.
Because you're up for so long, you're like, well, fuck it, I know I'm going to be up a little longer, so I might as well make some coffee.
Mm-hmm.
And then that prolongs the sleep. And
Yeah, and then caffeine, like stimulants, they people should understand like what all these kinds of drugs do because like if you have narcolepsy, I was talking to a friend and she has it, and they give you stimulants because they're like, well, you keep falling asleep, this will keep you awake, and so they had her on Adderall and Ritalin and all this shit, and like it's amphetamines, it's designer meth that a doctor can give you, it's time release meth. So, like, there's a lot of craziness that goes into treating all these kind of maladies, and because like some of us, like, we can't fall asleep for the life of us, um, because like we ruminate or we have just racing thoughts just constantly, and it's like for me that's a huge personal problem as far as falling asleep. I can't turn this fucking thing off. I wish I could, folks. It's this speed when I hit stop till I go to bed, and then when I wake up, and it's not great. And so I was like, well, maybe I'll have, because I also wake up if there's sound in the room. So not only do I have trouble falling asleep, I can't stay asleep because I have a heightened startle response or something. So I'll hear the neighbor's door close in their bathroom, and I wake up and I'm like, and I live in a house and it's separate yards. Like for some reason I have eagle hearing at night, and then I have cats too, so they're making a racket. So like, oh, I'll put in earplugs, but for me that's not good because then it's just me and the thoughts are louder, and it's like, oh great, so I have to have music. But then every time I
right.
change the sound, it flips, and like it's gotten to the point where it's taken a long time to figure it out, but like you definitely need to put the effort into figuring it out. And I just got this Bluetooth sleep mask, and it's working pretty great for me. I have this an app that just plays the same tone over and over again all night, or the same loop over and over again. Because like for me, I tried playing it with a playlist, and I would wake up very literally every time the song changed. So anytime there was a pause in the songs, I'd wake up, and then so I was like, this isn't gonna work. Um, but then when I played the constant tone through the Bluetooth headphones, and then I got the night mask thing on to just block out all the visual stuff. Because you'd be surprised too. Yeah, I have the lights off and this, that, and the other. But I'm in Southfield now, and if it's a cloudy night, it's Batman in here, dude. It just every light reflects in, and it's nuts. But it's the most I can do, or not necessarily the most I could do. I could probably get like an isolation chamber or some bullshit. But so
Right.
far, that's what I'm doing right now, and it's. But I also take melatonin, which is a thing. It's kind of a lightweight thing if you're on the drug scene and if you've been around. But I'm
It
glad
seems
I'm
like
just taking melatonin at 3 milligrams. Apparently, don't take more than 5 because you can do the dopamine blowout trick to your melatonin makers and then never be able to fall asleep on your own again without it. So that's a thing. Um, so don't take more melatonin than you need. But I mean,
that stuff doesn't work for me at all.
yeah. I mean, and I've maxed out Ambien, Trazodone, Lunesta, every major sleep drug I've taken, and I've maxed out, and I've stayed awake through them all, and hallucinated through some of them. Or um, Trazodone's a good eating pill. If you want to gain some weight real quick, take a Trazodone, and you will eat every box of cereal in your face. Just it was pretty brutal. Seroquel makes you hungry. Lots of sleeping pills make you super, super hungry. They kick in the munchies like a motherfucker.
Hmm.
Because your brain is just churning and it wants something to help it churn. So it usually wants like sugars and all kinds of crazy shit, lots of starches. So you get kind of fat on sleeping pills. Like you need to treat your sleep, but the truth of it is you need to figure out like if you haven't slept in 21 days, take an Ambien. Take a trazodone, fucking call a doctor.
Yeah, you gotta watch Ambien though.
Yeah, get somebody else involved. But like if you're starting to take Ambien, you need to start a plan to stop. Just the same as if somebody gives you a prescription for an opiate, a prescription for a benzo, prescription for anything. Any mental health pill you're getting on, make sure you have a plan to get off and get off safely.
Well, I'm talking. It gave me some of the worst nightmares of my life.
Well, that's the deal. Is everyone is going to have their own combination. That's what part of the thing that, and but later, but everyone has their own combo, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you have problems with there's 4 types of sleep that you need to get, and that's and then well, you have your initial light sleep, which is like right when you fall asleep, which is only then you have your light sleep, then you have your REM sleep, and then you have your deep sleep. And some people have the hardest part about dealing with this is you have to figure out which one that your body is having trouble. If you just have sleep apnea, if you have narcolepsy or something like that, everyone has, and each one needs to be treated separately. So for me, I've never taken melatonin in my life. I take it now, falling asleep on a regular schedule again, and then eventually I'll wean myself off. Now I've noticed when I used to drink, because I have a Fitbit, how you sleep, right? So when I used to be drunk and fall asleep, I used to be on REM and deep sleep or a shit ton. Everything was balanced. Now it's it's not as potent because my body is trying to do it on its own. I'll get it to the point where I'm actually sleeping normally again. I'm getting enough sleep, but it's not the right time. You just have to find your combo, and that takes a long time. But like I said, and like Steve said, you just got to find that the time to actually put the time into it, because sleep is it's super duper for every process that you do in your life.
All right, this is like watching Sting. I only get every third word you say. What kind of ghetto ass fucking internet you got?
Damn it.
You're getting a little choppy there in Cali.
Well, shit.
Well, shit. Yeah, the giggity, get to the point, kid. Some of the other important, as I was thinking about, what the hardest part about figuring out your sleep problems is you're asleep the whole fucking time, or near to it. So that's a big problem for me. I was not aware. I take this medicine called Prazosin, which if you have nightmares, by the way, talk to your doctor about this, because, and again, if you got a plan to get on, get a plan to get off. But Prazosin will stop your nightmares fucking cold, and you won't remember a dream you ever have again. It's insane. But it does the trick, because every night I have the same nightmare about this faceless kid, and it's some bullshit it's the dumbest haunting ever, because I know exactly what it is. It's this kid who I met from Tennessee, and I just can't remember his face. But for some reason, I have a nightmare about him every fucking night. It's preposterous, but that's just a ghost I got to deal with. So this is my Ghostbuster trick, is this Prazosin stuff, and then I'm out like a light. But then I didn't know I had night terrors until somebody told me that I woke up an entire barracks by telling everyone I was going to crush their fucking faces with a hammer. And then they're like, geez, Sarge, you all right? I'm like, yeah, guys, what's up?
Let me talk to the bad man inside you.
Steve, 2 minutes.
Raja. Okay, so we're going to close up this first portion, and I think we're not experts on the subject. We're not experts on most of these subjects, guys. We're just well-read and well-dressed, and that's all that is. But you need to get it checked out, and there's plenty of avenues to go do it. And if you have a spouse or a partner who is having difficulty sleeping, encourage them to go get help, because this stuff can be fatal. Sleep apnea does kill.
Oh yeah.
It's you not breathing, no longer bringing in air while you sleep. And so it's pretty easy to notice. People gulp. They're You're like, that shit ain't snoring. That's something else. And, that needs to be addressed. And if you have these nightmares where you wake up in the morning and it just fucks your entire day, go get them addressed. And because there are so many other skills that are required for, like, I could say fight through and those feelings pass, but, like, this is actually kind of a hell of a drug for that. Like, I'm one to go fight for it and say, hey, but because it is hard. Sometimes those dreams stay with you and you're just wrecked for a while until you can go through, and the way you get through those is you unfortunately have to sit there and unpack every emotion, validate each thought, unvalidate each thought, and then walk it through. It's a hell of a process. You wake up and you're like, oh, I feel like a piece of shit because I let that guy die. Well, I didn't really let that guy die. It was a dream. Okay, well, I still feel like a piece of shit. What's going on? Well, I feel guilty about something. What do I feel guilty about? Okay, da-da-da-da-da. And you got to, like, Freud yourself out of it. But, I mean, other than that, you can just take Prazosin. That's the only reason I'm suggesting it, is because it until you learn that trick, I'd say take the Prazosin. I'd say take the medication that's available. But while you start taking those meds, you're going to have to learn a lot of tricks on your own on how to fix that stuff. And then we're going to talk about that in our next little bit after the break on some different ways you can take care of your sleep now without taking some drugs, or what you could maybe do tonight before you call the doctor tomorrow. All right, gang. So we love the fuck out of you. If you're just hanging with us for this time, hang out. But in the meantime, there'll be a brief break. Hit the like and subscribe buttons and the notification bell. And the notification bell lets you know when we go on live for the next bit. In case anybody drops off, you guys want to say anything before the break?
I'm good.
Okie dokie.
Yeah, I gotta pop off for tonight. I just got back from a trip, but I enjoy talking. Definitely, I mean, we'll bring this up again. The more training I get, obviously, having knowledge. If you're going to just keep it to yourself, I like to share. I like to share everything that I at least learn.
Mm-hmm.
So, watching the content that they put out on the next show, if we need to do a little recap, I'll make some notes, touch on based upon certain subjects, and then we can hit on those. If you have any questions, please ask, because what we're doing right now is because of questions we've been asked or experiences that we've gone through ourselves. So if you have any questions to ask about the follow-on answers, we will answer them in the next show. And if anybody, Samantha's on, by the way, and shout out to
Hi, Sam.
thanks for coming on again. And for me, I'm checking out. Love you guys, and we'll see you next time.
Right to that. All right, gang. We'll see you after the break. If you want to talk to us about sleep or add your comments for tonight, we'll try and come back here in the next 5 or so minutes. But you know us. We're a couple of losers. You can call us at 313-288-9617 and leave a voicemail. We'd love to hear from you. Or you can send us an email at dfd.slm@deployedfromdetroit.com. Let us know how poorly you sleep. We love the fuck out of you, gang. We'll see you in a couple minutes. Bye.